All right, everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon, although it's really not a good afternoon around here as far as I'm concerned right now, but be as good with it as you can, I guess. So, yeah, things are still moving, things are still being discussed, and as far as I know, the Myles Garrett trade has not been finalized yet, but everything indicates that it is going to happen, and we may as well discuss it as if it is going to happen. So, naturally, not too long after I posted that first video, like an hour and a half ago, we got the full trade compensation details, but I decided to wait on making this video to let that first video sit up a little bit. But let's get into it now. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Yeah, I gotta say, this initial report of the trade compensation the Browns got for Myles Garrett did not make me feel better. It did not really change my perception of this trade. This is, in my opinion, a pretty massive win for the Rams. I don't even think it's close. I don't really know what the Browns are doing here. Quite frankly, I don't know what they really get out of this that they're all that happy about. And I'm shocked that someone wasn't able to do better than this. So here's the trade. Rams get Myles Garrett, of course. The Browns get Jared Verse. We knew that. First round pick next year. We knew that. The extra compensation is a 2028 second round pick and a 2029 third round pick. So therefore, you've got basically, if you mash it all together, you've got somewhere around 2 first round picks plus, depending on how you feel about Jared Verse. Now, this tweet from Ari here says that Cleveland views Verse as essentially another first round pick in the deal. And I'll talk about that in a second here. But you mash it all together. If you've got the first round pick and then you've got the Verse piece, which is supposedly another first round pick, and then you bring in a second round pick in 2028. Now, remember, the rule of thumb for draft pick value is that if you push a pick out by a year, it loses 1 round of value. And if you push it out by 2 years, it loses 2 rounds of value. So in terms of actual value, the 2028 pick is really kind of like a third round pick, and the 2029 pick is like a fifth round pick. So you put it all together, Verse, first, third, fifth, that's really just kind of 2 firsts and some fluff. I don't want to call it meaningless fluff. Even a third round and fifth round pick have value. But once you compensate for the fact that these picks are getting pushed out into future years where we don't know about the class, right? We know that 2027 is supposed to be a very strong draft. We don't know about 2028 or 2029. The fact that 2027 is so good kind of indicates that 2028 might not be so good, although that doesn't necessarily mean it will be or won't be. But you mash it all up, even if you accept the Browns' framing here, you're talking about 2 firsts plus. And for Myles Garrett, who is only 30 years old, coming off a year where he broke the sack record on a terrible team, mind you, it's hard for me to see that any way other than a massive win for the Rams. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So there's that. And then we have to talk about the Jared Verse thing here. So this tweet from Ari says that the Browns view Verse as essentially another first-round pick. I don't know if I accept that framing. I mean, maybe they think it, maybe that's what they believe, but I look at Jared Verse and I see a player that is going to turn 26 in November. So we're going to get about halfway through this season. He's going to be 26. So last year he was 24 and then 25. He's probably not going to get that much better than he is. He's already an older player for somebody who's entering his third year, right? He had 7.5 sacks last year. He played the run fairly well. Doesn't seem to be remarkable in that area. Doesn't seem to be anything over the top. Seems to be fine. 7.5 sacks in 17 games on a team that was playing with the lead a lot because they were a good team is not really anything I'm getting that excited about. And even if we think he can get a little bit better, is he going to get a lot better? I don't think so. This isn't like Byron Murphy, and I'll get into why I bring up Byron Murphy in a second here. Byron Murphy is 23, right? He's young. He could get a lot better. There is a chance that Byron Murphy is just scratching the surface. I don't think you can say that about Jared Verse. I look at Jared Verse and I see someone who might cap out at pretty close to what he was last year. Somebody who gets 8 to 10 sacks a year in his prime. And maybe not even that if he's not on a very good team. Like that Browns team, especially now, like they don't have good player development. They don't have good coaching. Jared Verse could kind of go to Cleveland and be a forgotten man pretty darn quickly here. It will not shock me at all. He wasn't great for the Rams. Again, I say again, there's a reason why Rams fans were starting to trash him a little bit last year. And I don't mean they're trashing him now after he's gone. That would just be sour grapes. I mean trashing him during the season last year, wondering where is the second year leap? Where is the big breakout? They were waiting for him to be Will Anderson, and it didn't happen. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he has that in him. He's a good player, but I don't view this as some massive give up here. To me, if you're talking about a trade, Jared Verse is worth like a second round pick. I wouldn't even say first anymore. Now, the Browns, one thing they're touting is they have 3 years of club control on him because he's got the 2 years left on his rookie deal and then the 5th-year option. Great, but I don't think that's really moving my needle that much. Great, the 5th-year option is going to be fairly expensive. It's going to be reasonable as long as he's a double-digit sack a year guy, but I just don't see it. I just see a good player here, but I don't see somebody that is irreplaceable. I don't see someone that has an overwhelming amount of value. I just see a good player. So to me, you take this trade, first round pick, third round pick value, fifth round pick value, Jared Verse, second round pick value, mash it all together. I think this is basically like 2 firsts. And that's where the pain comes in a little bit here as a Seahawks fan, because look, what everybody is saying is that Derek Hall is not as valuable as Jared Verse, and that's absolutely true. Derek Hall's in the last year of his deal this year. Derek Hall hasn't played as well as Jared Verse. Verse has actually made a couple of Pro Bowls. Whether or not he deserved it is debatable, but Jared Verse has made 2 Pro Bowls. Derek Hall is not. And I accept that Verse is more valuable than Derek Hall, but if you package 2 first-round picks, maybe like a third-round pick, and Derek Hall, I think that's better than this trade. I do. And maybe the Browns wouldn't agree, and maybe there's nothing you can do about that. But I don't fully accept the framing that some people are using that if we wanted to do this trade, we would have had to give up Byron Murphy. Maybe that's true. It depends on how much the Browns really like Jared Verse. Maybe they're enamored with him. Maybe they're in love with him. But when I look at this, I don't see an overwhelming trade package that nobody could have matched. I look at this and say 2 firsts, a third, and Derek Hall gets it done. It's better than this. Again, this is coming from a person who doesn't see the hype with Jared Verse that much. But if the Browns do, then admittedly, okay. I'm not giving up Byron Murphy. I will admit that right now. Somebody asked me in the comments of my last video, would you have given up Byron Murphy to make the Myles Garrett trade happen? No, he plays a more valuable position, and what he does is ultimately more valuable. But, I mean, really think about it, guys. Jared Verse and Byron Murphy had the same number of sacks last year, almost. What, Murphy had 7, Verse had 7.5. Verse is an edge rusher on a team that constantly plays from the lead. Murphy is an interior tackle who spends some of his time playing out of position at nose. Like, by the way, Murphy's anchoring the best run defense in football. Like, to me, there's no equivalency there. It's not even close. Like, if you're trading Byron Murphy for Myles Garrett, there's not that much more the Browns should be getting back in my mind. But you start talking about Jared Verse, I just view him as being like maybe a low first round pick in value. And by the way, and I think it was this is Dan Viennes who was on this already. Don't think this is expensive. I saw some people saying, oh, this is going to cost the Rams so much money. No, it doesn't. Myles Garrett cap hit if acquired. This is something that Dan Viennes put together and tweeted out yesterday. First year cap hit right now on Garrett is 8 to 9 million. 2027, 16 to 17 million. 2028, 20 to 21 million. Don't try to tell me that a guy who can get 20 sacks a year for you and deliver consistent pressure while playing the run very well is not worth these cap hits. This is a bargain. Now, after 2028, things get crazy. His cap hits go up to like 50 million. But at that point, maybe the Rams can get out of it. Maybe the Rams let him go. Maybe the Rams cut him. And maybe they eat some dead money on it, but who cares? They had Myles Garrett for 3 very cheap and reasonable years. That is well worth it. That is what you live for as an NFL team. So Myles Garrett is not really that expensive right now, pending something. And this is the one thing that I will concede here at the end of the video. What if he wants a new deal? That would be the one thing that would kind of mix things up here, because to me, this trade is pretty weak. I think the Browns did pretty poorly here. I don't think this is worth 30-year-old Myles Garrett at all. The caveat would be if Myles Garrett goes to the Rams and says, pay me, give me a new deal. I want a new contract. If that is what happens, then these numbers probably go away and get replaced with bigger numbers. And the Rams are going to be on the hook for more. And they're going to be in a much tougher spot in a few years. And they'll be in a tougher spot maybe very quickly. Now, it's still Myles Garrett. It's still worth it. The dude is incredible. The dude is coming off a Defensive Player of the Year season. But at the end of the day, it is worse if he wants a new deal now. And that may be kind of the caveat here. If he demands a new contract and gets it, this trade makes a lot more sense to me, because now the money is a bigger issue. And that may lead to the Rams having to give up on some of their young players that they were planning on extending before, like Puka, like Avila, like Kobe Turner, like Byron Young. Those guys may be sacrificed. That changes things. But as of right now, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how else to put it. I think this is a really good trade for the Rams, and I think it's a bad trade for the Browns. Maybe Jared Verse has a Will Anderson type leap in him and becomes an elite player in 2026. But I don't think it's going to happen on that Cleveland team. Maybe it was going to happen elsewhere, but not on the Browns. All right, guys. So there's plenty more to talk about still with regards to this from the Seahawks perspective. But I look at this trade and I see... all I see is the Rams getting better without having to give up nearly as much as they should have to get this much better.